Right. So today's conversation is about something we're all experiencing in different ways, change. And at Elena, we speak about the art of graceful change. It's the belief that life's transitions are not just something to fix or fear, but something to understand, support, and move through with intention. So the menopause is one of these moments. It's not a pause, it's not an ending, but a powerful recalibration. And few people are shaping this conversation with such honesty and courage and clarity as today's guest. And I'm delighted to welcome Anne-Marie, founder of HotFlush Inc. So good morning.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be here and to see you again.
Delighted. Yeah, wonderful to catch up with you again. We had such great conversations back last year in Dubai, and I'm just delighted that we can continue the conversation and go a bit deeper. So thank you. So let's start with the first big question. So tell me, I know you told me before when we were chatting, but just for everybody that's watching, before HotFlush Inc became this beautiful movement, and I love listening to you and watching with, it's just so honest and raw, which is exactly what we need. So what was your own kind of hot flush moment that made you realize that something had to change?
Do you mean personally, or do you mean that I had to do something?
Yeah, for you, like what happened with you where you said, okay, something has to change. I need to step forward, because you're a voice for us. You've been a voice for us for quite some time now. So what was that moment where you said, okay?
It kind of just came from my journalism background, because when I realized I was in perimenopause after many years of just floundering from doctors, just always thinking there was something wrong with me, experiencing all these symptoms that are random and not connected. And when you talk about them, they're crazy. And when I realized I was in perimenopause, I had to skip a period for that to happen. Like I had to get hit over the head, like I do for many things in my life, like we all do. So I was like, and I was, 49, 48, 47, no, around 47, 48. I can't quite remember. And so it was like, okay, I know what I'm dealing with now, and I can't argue with it. I researched it. I'd never heard of the word perimenopause before. And then I just did what I did whenever I was interested in a subject that I might potentially write about or want to learn about as a journalist, which is put a Google alert, a simple Google alert for perimenopause and menopause, which I still have, by the way. And I just hated what was coming back at that point. So we're talking 2018. It just wasn't good content. It wasn't the kind of content that I loved making, like producing, and it wasn't the kind of content I liked consuming. I like very well-rounded, deep content. I was kind of on the precipice of going through an awakening myself about all the different systems we live in and how they kind of coordinate to keep us to be consumers. And so this was all kind of coming together. And I just started to think I could do something in this. I didn't have like a long-term vision of anything or any idea how it would transpire. I just thought I can do this content better. So I just started with a newsletter before even newsletters were a thing and Substack was a thing. I had really liked, it's not cool to say this, but I had liked Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop. I had always really respected her for doing that and starting that. And I thought, why don't I just start it and see what happens?
Yeah, I love that so much. And like, because you started that when it wasn't like trending, do you know what I mean? Like 2017, 2018, it really wasn't talked about. Like, how did it get to a stage now where I feel it's gone out of control? Like there's so much information, but it's not necessarily the best information that's helping women in any way, shape or form. And unless you have a big bank account to go and see specific consultants or doctors, like where does the everyday woman go to kind of understand all of this? Like this is how did it start trending like this? Is it just media or?
Okay, so first of all, I thought about it. I talked about it. I probably annoyed my friends about it. My friend came up with the name HotFlush Inc, so that was good. But I know that they were like, just start this thing already. So I finally in COVID started it. And it was just the beginning when things were picking up, and I met some cohorts, some peeps who were doing their own thing. These were doctors coming up, many of them who've become super famous. And it just sort of, you saw it gathering pace, because my whole argument for doing something in this, for making potentially a business out of it, was that this is going to blow wide open, and Gen X is not going to put up with any of the crappy jokes I see on TV and the lame storylines and the being a punchline and being mean to ourselves. I'd done that my whole life. It made myself entertainment. I was like, none of this humor, nothing's resonating with me. Yeah. So it kind of just was a wave that was taking off. But I realize now, And Jennifer Block is a reporter in the US, and she's done some great reporting on this. And I'd love to work with her to put this all together. But that wave it wasn't just organic, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I'm sure the pharmaceutical industry had, the Women's Health Initiative scared everyone off hormone therapy. And there are some problems with that study for sure. But way too many people were off hormone therapy. So the industry itself has been in the background, pushing, guiding, funding. So while it seems it is beautiful and there's tons of awareness, but like you said, it's become so confusing. It's become so mainstream. It's become, you must take hormones. You're dumb if you don't take hormones.
Yeah.
And my concern now is there is such an ecosystem of hormone therapy prescribing and belief systems about hormone therapy that it just depends who you end up in front of. Yeah. And they may know one thing, they may know another thing. Very few people are forward thinking. Now there's women naturopathic doctors and integrative physicians and people that I really trust and are on my expert panel. Some of them who've been, they're 20 years ahead of things. Yeah. But I'm actually working on it's a digital tool. It's going to be a guide that, in under 2-3 hours, you're going to be able to figure out what belief system about hormone therapy is right for you, if any. But that's because I haven't known what to do about this because I just feel what I hear from my own friends. I hear my own, because everyone's prescribing now and, more and more and more and more. And they don't all know what they're doing. So that's another problem. So I got a lot in there. I'm sorry.
No, that is exactly. And this is the thing, like for me, I'm perimenopause, but kind of the last kind of 3 years or so. But like for me, even making the decision on HRT, I want an unbiased opinion. And to me, if I'm going to go to the doctor's just going to tell me I have to take it. So that's what's a struggle. I go to my Ayurvedic doctor. She says, don't need it. We'll give you all these Ayurvedic. So there's biased opinion wherever you go. So to have something that's unbiased, oh my God, that's exactly what we need. And I think
I'm going to send it to you. I'll send it to you before I publish it.
I would love that. Absolutely love that. So when we're talking about menopause, like what conversations do you think are still missing? Is it like this? Is it these type of conversations where having that unbiased view and being able to self-evaluate, or what do you think? Because like for me, like we do bioenergetic testing, we do DNA testing as well. We're kind of delving deeper to see, rather than say generically, you're perimenopause, your menopause, whatever, you need to do this. Like somebody come to me one day and said, this is a list of supplements you need if you're perimenopause, done. And I was like, okay. So I started to take them, didn't feel any better. And then I did my bioenergetic testing, which will kind of like it will tell you kind of what's going on in your system right now. And half of the supplements I was taking were not even on this list. So when I saw what was on there, like my CoQ10 was down to 0, she was like, your energy levels are so low. And I'm like, yeah, I know, right? She goes, well, of course, your CoQ10 is 0. You need to, and I was like, didn't even think of that. The bees were okay. I was kind of in line with bees. And I went through a few different supplements. I changed it up, and all of a sudden, I started to feel really good again. But if I had followed the menopause supplement system, I wouldn't have felt any different, So like, what conversations do you think are really missing out there that women need?
Oh my gosh. How many? There are so many, but you've given me an idea for something else. But I call them sort of these gaps or these spaces. But first of all, the individuality of every woman. I think something that isn't discussed enough is the woman who is sensitive or has experienced trauma, which is many, many, many of us. Yeah. And that can create sensitivities within your own body to things, and including hormone therapy. One of the people I've connected with, Paula Rastrick, is a psychotherapist in the UK. She's writing a book called Sensitive Woman. I am a sensitive woman. I do not respond to hormone therapy the same way other people do. I'm quite intolerant to it, I would say. Okay. And I'm also intolerant to people telling me what I might be doing wrong to make me intolerant to it. But there's also genetic variations. I also have the MTHR and the COMT variations. These make not only hormone therapy, people aren't discussing what relationship this is to hormone therapy, but also supplementation. I've had my own GP homeopathy prescribe, she calls them nutraceuticals, but supplements that are not good for me. And so, people will say, take turmeric. I can't. I think the the tremendous reckoning that comes at midlife. That is everything. It is the sheer grief of your children leaving home and the years leading up to them leaving home. I just went for a walk with a very dear friend. She's struggling with this, and it's 2 years away, and she can't stop thinking about it. But embedded in that is her own identity as a mother.
Yeah.
And then the aging parents, this and the identity shift that you make at this time. So it's being treated as very much a physiological transition that is a mistake of nature. And
Yes.
I just think it's a mind, body, soul, community, relationship. I felt like in the year that I was going through menopause, I felt like I was Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz and the house and the tornado.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. So those are just a couple of things that don't get talked about.
Yeah, it's true. And actually, you've hit the nail on the head, because it was something I was thinking about recently. Actually, my daughter just left the end of last year to go to college, and she went back to Ireland, and I'm in the Maldives. And I was like, what do I do with my life now? Like, I don't know what to do. I've got this career, but like, I have no meaning anymore. And I literally was lost. And it was really hard to, and you're actually right. We go through the transition of the kids leaving home, perimenopause, everything seems to come all at once. And yeah, as women, we're just meant to just get on with it and just carry on. But actually, emotionally, you're absolutely right. It's so difficult. Yeah. Gosh.
The intersection. And that's not even it, Tasha. That's not even all of it, because it's the intersection of absolutely everything. So your hormones are ripping the Band-Aid off, or the tide's going out and the messy garbage is left on the beach. So all the coping mechanisms that you had don't work.
Yes.
If you've been in a relationship for 10, 20, 30 years, it's coming up, right? The stuff you put in the basement, that door, that vault, your personal vault and the relationship vaults are like, they're fighting to get out. There's the identity shift. And also in your career, I certainly found in my 40s that it was a time when a career I had dreamed and loved and coveted, and I had gotten to a beautiful place, was becoming like, I don't know if I want to do it. And that, that is a realization that's incredibly painful too, because you've built your identity up there as well. And what could you possibly do? And many of us are forced out because we might lose our job. I became a freelancer, or you just keep going to a job that doesn't fill you up, and you're going through all these other things. So any of these things can be happening. There are so many. It's the intersection of everything.
Tell me this, because this was an interesting conversation at the Menopause Summit last year, or not last year, the year before, right? They spoke about menopause in the workplace, right? And how they were going to make, a certain law, I think in the UK or something, they were going to kind of put new laws or new things in where women are given time and everything. I was on the fence about it, I'll be honest, because I'm sorry, I know some women can struggle with their periods, for example, and they may need to take a day's rest or something like that. But in general, I'm kind of going, I don't know, do we really want to be treated different in the workplace where they go, oh, it's menopause, so we need to treat her? I don't want that. But how do we also the brain fog? My guys will come into me in the office. They're like, I've told you about this 3 times. I'm like, I'm sorry. If it's not written down, I don't remember it. I cannot remember things. I can't remember words. But I still don't want to be treated differently in the workplace. So how do we balance that? What's your opinion on, as women, how do we deal with that? And how do people deal with us, if that makes sense, or cope with us?
Oh yeah, this is a tough one, because I was in management in my 40s when I was really going through a lot of anxiety, and I had a lot of feelings like they were looking at me. I was very paranoid as a manager. I felt a lot of paranoia about my staff, which is that's another thing I don't hear people talking about. I hear you. I think it's something that young girls are much better at being. I think it's a shame over our physical body that maybe we might feel like that, because I'm with you. I feel like that. And I don't want to be seen in any way as a weakness. I think the younger girls are much better at saying it's not a weakness. It's just something that happens to my body. Right. Yeah. But I think it's very, very individual. It would be great in a workplace. I think the most effective thing is, it always boils down to hot flashes and keeping it cool. But I think the most important thing would just be if you had a little bit of leeway. And we always think of boardrooms when we're talking about this, but think of the woman who has to stand at the cash register all day, or out on the road with the road sign, or a prison guard, or, you know, like there's lots of jobs at McDonald's. Like if they have those workplace policies, then there's some leeway for the night you didn't get any sleep, or maybe that's, you wake up really, really early. I had that a lot. And then you might get back to sleep, but then it's like, you can't wake up because you had such a deep sleep. It's some leeway where you could say some flexibility, but in such a sensitive way that you could just not have to announce to your boss, who might be a woman who doesn't understand or feels that this shouldn't be the case, or a man you don't want to tell. It would just be great if they could figure out it sensitively. I never know when they announce these workplace policies. And that was definitely a trend a couple of years ago. You heard about it all the time. I never really know how they're doing it and how it works, like
I just putting on a platform, there are the menopausal women over there, and you're just kind of going, no, it's not cool.
But you could just imagine too, like, to me, the best way would be just to say, hey, you're of the age of perimenopause. I don't want to get into your business, but I just want you to know that you can have some flexibility because I went through it. But that's just a very specific case of, I'm thinking of me saying it to someone. A lot of people don't want their boss saying a word about it, right? We have all had bosses. It would be awful if he said, hey, you're menopausal.
And you're like, what, you're calling me crazy? Yeah, exactly. And then
It's a really tricky one. And I will say, it's a very, and this is I don't want this to sound churlish or anything, because everyone deserves to make money. But becoming a sort of a workplace consultant is one of the more lucrative paths for people who have entered this space as coaches, et cetera, et cetera. Because if you can get into corporations and start educating them. So that also has commercial aspects to it, the rise of that. And I'm also very skeptical of any surveys about women leaving the workforce en masse because of perimenopause or menopause. There were a couple of headlines a few years ago in The Guardian and all the British newspapers that 1 million women were leaving the workforce. And a good friend and colleague of mine, Rachel Lancaster, queried those numbers. It was just some editor who mistakenly extrapolated from a very small study. So again, headlines can be really outrageous. And I just think everyone should be a bit more, just query it a little bit more. There's a lot going on with menopause in the workplace. Yes. And I have just one more thing, is that I did interview these two women who did a beautiful study called The Dialectic of Zest. And they looked at this situation in such a different way. And I got to meet them in Dubai because they spoke at a menopause day event at a university here. And they were just talking about us basically trying to find the thing that will light us up and flow. And their work, looking at the issue of work in how it changes in perimenopause and menopause, sort of puts the other way of looking at it, makes it seem very simplistic. There's a lot going on. We deserve to do what we love. And maybe that's coming up as well in perimenopause, right? Maybe we're not happy at work. Yeah. Because we're not happy at work because our heart wants to do something. A lot of people did the safe route, and that hurts you over time. This is another thing that's coming up, right? They didn't follow their heart. They went into law because it was expected or whatever. So
yeah, I do think there's a big shift. I've seen it in women, and they're kind of taking their second careers almost. They're going out, like you say, and they're doing something that really comes from the heart rather than, you're absolutely right. But I think it takes women that are able to have that vulnerability, I think, because going out and doing that and kind of stopping something that was just such a staple and then, shifting, I think it will take a certain type of woman that's able to kind of go on that roller coaster, because that can be tough as well. Really
it's tough. The hardest thing. And economically, whether you're able, you can even consider it. Many people don't have that option. And then let's even just think that the people around us, they want to keep us safe too. So usually when you start talking about something new you're going to do, you get it subtle, that's not really the best thing, right? That's not this. Certainly your parents, our generation, my generation, boomers, they're going to just be scared that you're, going to do something that's maybe not as secure as what you've been doing. So there's so much going on there as well.
Yeah, definitely. What conversations do you want that you want stopped? What conversations do you think need to just be nipped in the bud and just we don't need to be talking about it when it comes to menopause?
Oh, there are a lot of things and they're tropes and you're going to hear them all the time. Things that just aren't true, like that we're hormone deficient after menopause. It's just biologically untrue. I've done a number of interviews on my podcast with evolutionary biologists. This was designed to happen. So the estrogen deficiency narrative that's perpetuated by the biggest voices is not correct. It's not correct. And it is, I have my own friends who've been captured by this. I've had my own friends say, "Oh, I'd love to know what your hormone levels are." And it's like, another conversation is that you can test your blood and know what your hormone levels are. I've been researching this for a while. When you go through menopause, you have hormone receptors that become more sensitive. In some cases, you develop new hormone receptors. This is all over the body, by the way. Yeah. Estrogen is produced locally. It's produced in your tissues. I have it on pretty good authority from the interviews I've done that you can't really tell what your hormone levels are. But you have all these people saying, get your hormone levels tested. And you have all these people with a practice of prescribing based on hormone levels. Yeah. And then you have doctors saying, like, I saw a Substack from a doctor, a big hormone enthusiast. She's sort of a biohacking type doctor in her 40s. Mm-hmm. And the last item was, why do some women feel so good when their hormone levels are the same and some women feel so terrible? Mm-hmm. And she sort of gyrated herself into this space, but never mentioned all these other ways that we make hormones. I'm screaming like, it's because it doesn't accurately reflect. And the smartest people will say this, but we're in a really weird, I wish it would stop, but the head of the FDA, Marty McCary, when they took the black box warning off of the estrogen boxes, said you may want to get your hormone levels tested. The head of the FDA said you may want to get your hormone levels tested. He's on every news station. So it's like sort of a reality tunnel. So those two for sure. I'd like to get that organized.
Like, yes.
The testing is a very important one because both the deficiency narrative and the testing go together. Because what happens when you buy into these two things, you're always externally focused. You are now putting your faith in the doctor who is telling you part of the story, and your wellness is in the hands of what those hormone levels say. Yeah. And it doesn't mean you can't take hormone therapy, but you can, it's prescribed on symptoms and how you and continued how you feel. And that seems to be the smartest approach. That's what I'd really like women to know.
Yeah. And I think as well, we had a beautiful Dr. Louise who came to our retreat last year. And she's a GP, but she's also a breathing expert as well. And how she teaches it is she teaches it that it's a jigsaw puzzle, and hormones is just one part. And this is the big conversation: is that everyone's talking about test, like you say, get your hormones tested. It's all about estrogen. It's all about your hormones, but they're not talking about all the other elements in there. So there's so much being missed, and everything is about right now. No one's looking at the longevity part of it. By the way, that is a trending word, which is not my favorite word, but I'm using it in a different way. The longevity of our lives. Like please God, I've got another 50 years to go, And if that's the case, I want to live it the healthiest and the best I can. But at the moment, we're just being told, just deal with what's right in front of you right now. But what about the next 50 years, So I think for me, women need to be educated more about how to live the second phase of your life the best way you can, rather than staying in this bubble and just trying to get through however long, you're going to go through menopause.
Oh, I agree with you. And I think, I talk to people all the time on hormone therapy who have quite a lot of complaints, and it's not the way it's portrayed. I want to start, I have, after 5 years of, almost 6 years of deeply researching this, I have concluded that the most important thing you can do is some form of nervous system regulation as many days as you can. And this will continue for the rest of your life. And when I do that for myself, I can reap the benefits. You're telling your body that you're safe. And this helps you when the world's crazy, but when you feel crazy inside, and when you feel good, because this continues. And, if it was just about losing your hormones and replacing your hormones, then we wouldn't have things like hypnosis being almost as effective for hot flashes and sleep as hormone therapy, and in some cases more effective. And I interviewed, all the research on hypnosis leads to Dr. Gary Elkins at Baylor University in Waco, Texas. And there's an app that he's a consultant on called Evia. But his work started on women who had breast cancer, who didn't feel comfortable taking hormone therapy. It's always been the advice that you shouldn't. That's sort of changing, but to give them something. And I think that's really beautiful. But I've used hypnosis in my own life for gut issues, for anxiety, for money fears. It has been so effective. And someone who I've corresponded with privately on Instagram, this beautiful woman who had breast cancer and is always asking me, like, she's suffered and her doctor won't give her hormone therapy. And she's just like, what can I do? What can I do? Her doctor has just agreed to give her hormone therapy. But at the same time, I said, why don't you try hypnosis? I just interviewed this guy. Mm-hmm. She wrote days later and said, it's already helped me so much. It's like it was already effective. It's effective
That's
quickly.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so first of all the other modalities that work helping women through hormone therapy, it's just sort of pick one, homeopathy, traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda. Hypnosis is a very, very valid option. And sometimes women will say to me, well, I'm doing everything. And I just really do wonder if they are doing everything. That's what you don't know, right? Because, and I'm not passing any judgment at all, but something that isn't talked about very much at all, and I'm reminded of it because I saw a really cool article yesterday, is the relationship between alcohol and perimenopause and hormone therapy. And I think that's a big sort of mostly unspoken thing, is the role of alcohol in our lives, even minimal alcohol. And lots of people drink
And a
alcohol.
lot of women going through perimenopause will stop alcohol altogether because they say it's just affecting them in a different way.
Yeah, no, I also did. I had a health explosion, so I had to stop drinking. I had a gut issue that just blew up. But after a year of not drinking, when you don't drink, you look, all of us, except maybe a very few, use alcohol in ways, right, that maybe we don't realize. And after a year of not drinking, you remove something from your life and you put it back in, it's just a completely different story. So I don't want to sound judgy, because I know when I was in perimenopause, I couldn't even have fathomed not drinking. I also know that the alcohol I was consuming was making everything way worse.
It's exacerbating everything. Interesting.
Yeah. And then the relationship between alcohol and hormone therapy, because I read an article yesterday in Food and Wine magazine. I thought this is getting really niche, because it was women who work in alcohol and how they deal with perimenopause.
Right.
I mean, that's a crazy niche level sort of article.
It's a whole new conversation.
Yeah. But we're really getting there. But, they all had sort of gone on hormone therapy, and then it made me think, and then I was researching hormone therapy and different kinds of cancer. There are definitely, and different issues, and it raises your estradiol levels, alcohol does, and the risks, for breast cancer are demonstrated with alcohol. And I don't want to sound like a fearmonger, but,
So with HRT, you're saying, so when you take HRT and alcohol, that's what they're saying, is it?
Yeah, like
just
it's not like someone's done a whole like meta-analysis of it, but there is research that it raises your estradiol level, it affects your estrobolome, the metabolites in your gut, and also the alcohol and the hormone therapy, there are increased risks for breast cancer while you're on the hormone therapy. There are studies to back all those up. People don't talk about it. It wasn't mentioned in the Food and Wine article. If I was the editor, I'd be like, this sounds like an ad for hormone therapy if you drink for a living. I'm not saying you can't do it. It's just, it was missing an angle, which is often the case now. It's often the case when pharmaceuticals are discussed. There's almost never, as a journalist, I was always taught to go out and get the other side of everything. And I guess as an old school journalist, it's making me crazy the way it's done now, because it's just like, write a glowing article about this or that.
Yeah. And it's all those trending things that people are jumping on. Like you're saying, we're not getting the full story then. We're just getting what they want us to know, which I think can be frustrating.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
Yeah. So I want to go back to the hypnotherapy, because I'm a huge fan of hypnotherapy. Tell me a bit more about how that works, because my understanding of hypnotherapy is it's working with that subconscious mind, right? and it's releasing that kind of that trapped repetitive behavior that's in the subconscious mind. So how does that work with, you were saying hot flushes even?
Yep.
So how does that work? Like, are we saying that it's our mind that is like bringing it on, or like, how, explain to me? I'm fascinated.
People get very bejiggity when you start suggesting that there is, like, I know whenever they mention cognitive behavioral therapy, people lose it because it makes it sound like it's all in your mind.
Yes, this is.
This is not the case. And Dr. Elkins addressed this because I was, this is part of the reason that it doesn't really fly. Like, people don't really believe it, is it's like, oh, they think it's all in my head. It's not the case, but just give me a second. I'll look for it.
It's not so much in the head, but it's something I think that for the subconscious is about those triggers, because we all have things that are kind of been set in our minds for years, as well.
Okay, first of all, he says hypnosis is a state of consciousness involving focused attention, and it's characterized by an increased capacity for response to suggestions. So that includes changes in physiology, behavior, thoughts, or emotion. It's the focus of attention, but it can change your physiology. So it's a physiological problem that can have a physiological response, hormone therapy.
Yeah.
But that's how powerful your thoughts are, that they can change your physiology. And that is not woo-woo. That is real. I mean, there are people all over the place saying, you create your thoughts create a cascade in your body. And so that's basically how it works. Like, it's obviously more complicated than that, but I just didn't want to mess it up.
Oh, fascinating. Oh, that's
your thoughts can affect your physiology. And this is just to bring up one more thing about what perimenopause is. We all grew up. I mean, I never really realized I had a constant negative thought loop in my brain. I had another person in my brain who was the meanest person ever. I internalized whatever happened in my childhood into my own brain. So that was another thing I had to deconstruct. And that's another way hypnosis can help, right? By tackling those thoughts. And many women carry those thoughts. So.
And I think that, I actually felt like when I started, I felt like I was going back into my teenage years. Actually, it was really interesting in the sense of like that self-loathing that I used to have with myself, which I kind of had such confidence then when I kind of got into my 30s and I'm feeling great. And then all of a sudden crash, gone. And I'm back to like the self-talk. And this is something we work a lot with the retreat as well. So we do some NLP as well, which is working with women to just stop that negative self-talk. Like, what we're saying to ourselves is, again, it's that physiology. It's coming all the way through again, that we're creating this in our minds as well, so that what we're saying about ourselves, we're becoming. And that's something that, I really want to work more with women to help with that, because to me, that's the most important part. Yes, we need to take whatever supplements or medication or whatever that we choose is best for us. But at the end of the day, we need to be kind to ourselves. And it's the one thing women aren't. They're just beating themselves up or just giving up and saying, well, this is it. I just have to go through this now. Instead of kind of fighting and saying, no, I deserve more. And I think this is definitely, whether you're a mother or not, this self-sacrificing that we have as women, that we will always just put everybody else before us. And I think this is the perfect time that women need to step forward and actually say, no, it's my time now. Like, it's my time to look after myself and be good to myself and be kind to myself. But that's something that women struggle with. In general, women struggle with it. But for me, it was just exasperated when I hit perimenopause again.
Yeah, me 1,000%. And I'm not a mother. I would have liked to have been. Another thing I had to deal with, but I still overfunctioned, put other people's opinions and priorities ahead of my own, thought they were more important. I did all of that. Yeah. So you don't have to be a mother to do that. But if you're a mother, it's like times 1,000. So there's work to be done. And I'm so glad in your retreat that you're including all these tools, because I had to find them all myself. And it took years to figure this out on my own. And I'm hoping to start offering workshops as well, online and in person, to just give people these tools. So maybe, because when you're just presented with it, you're like, well, I'm not going to want to do that, but I might want to do that. And I can't see myself doing breath work, but maybe tapping will work. It doesn't really matter how you get there. What's important is that you peel back the layers. And I think at the heart of it is understanding that I don't know why we're all here. I think that I read a really cool book once that said, every single thing on the planet is meant to expand. And if it doesn't expand, it will die. Like every single thing, a plant, whatever. And I think we're here to expand. And this is part of the reason we're on the planet. So if you kind of look at it as like you have a soul mission, and if you're not rising to your soul mission, I know it's a lot. Well, you're also having other perimenopause problems, but these are all coming together. And if you're not answering the like those little calls, if you're not doing work to like break down what it is that's holding you back to be able to do what's in your heart, then that's going to cause probably more physical problems, and your thoughts are going to cause more physical problems. And we just deserve to take a little bit of time to look at all this and unpack it, because, it's not, I'm on the other side of menopause. I've done a lot of work. It's not perfect, but I have so much more peace and so much more ability to self-regulate and to stand in my power. And it only gets stronger every day. So yeah, I'm really glad you're doing that kind of work.
Oh yeah. Thank you. Yeah, no, for me, I think how I kind of formulated everything was what I felt I need, what I was lacking. And I saw what my girlfriends were lacking. And I was like, if I want to make things better, how would I make it better for them? How am I going to make it better for myself? And I think that's how we've put everything together, but we put it together so that we bring so many different elements into it. We'll bring a medical doctor, we'll bring a holistic practitioner, we'll get the exercise in. You can have the wellness food, but you also can have the other food if you like do it your way. We have wellness your way is our philosophy. So it's do it your way that makes you feel good, instead of, if you're not a morning person, you wake up in the morning and you don't want to exercise, don't exercise. Exercise when you feel good doing it, because the results are different. When you do something with a good energy, the results come out very, very different, So this is why, like, women, I was hearing women say, oh, I started powerlifting when I hit perimenopause, and now look at me, I'm so strong and perfect. And I'm like, all right, I've never had a revenge body to start with. Why am I going to put myself under pressure at 48 to now decide I'm going to get a revenge body? I've got so much going on in my life, and now I have to hit the gym and start powerlifting. And then women feel immense pressure to kind of follow that suit and follow that trend, So I think it's really important that we find our own way of doing it, and just get properly educated, instead of, like you say, there's little snippets of information here, there, and everywhere, but they're not giving the full story. They're only telling us what they want us to know, and that's
everyone's selling their own angle, right? So the trainer's gonna make you think that you have to lift heavy. You just have to do some resistance training. That's basically it. Like let's all calm down about it. I am sick to death of this, because I bought into this the possibility that I could look like the cover of Women's Health someday. I used to put it on my fridge, like, if you can believe it. I thought that was possible for my own body. I lived in that reality, and I'm just sick to death of it. And I know you're selling this, and you will help me get there. And it's the end of it for me. Anyway, you really don't have to lift heavy. You can just lift, and know that I've spoken to experts, kinesiologists who, I really trust, and who know the research. And so I think they're all trends, right? They're all like fitness trends, and then people make money off of them. But what I love is what you're doing, because there's so much menopause education that's going on that is a cash grab. You have the Medi Clinic, the Medi Spa, that's going to, has a plan to prescribe you hormone therapy. I have heard outrageous figures. I was on the Dubai Eye radio, and the producer said one of her friends went, and I think it was like 3 months, and it was like a couple $1,000 US, and that was only for 3 months of care. And I remember I went to a doctor in my 40s, and she said it was going to be about $400 a month for the hormones that she was going to prescribe. And, and you have these events that are like for education, but they're really just to scare you and give you the deficiency narrative, and then sell you. Everyone's selling something, and that's okay. Yeah. We all deserve to make money, but I love what you're doing, because if everyone can get a taste, and if you're on a retreat and you step out of your life for a little bit and you just open up a little bit, and you have a little bit of space, then you can try it and be like, yeah, I remember how I felt there. I still have memories from retreats I've done in like 15 years ago, where just little snippets came, I was exposed to little things. So, and there are menopause retreats out there, and I'm not sure about them, but what I'm hearing from you sounds good.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll just finish off, if you're happy, with just a little quick fire question. All right. We want you to tell me what's hot and what's not. All right.
Okay.
So, menopause retreats, hot or not?
Hot, I think. Yeah. Depending.
Depending. Yes, got you. At home hormone testing kits, hot or not?
Not.
Right. Calling menopause second puberty, hot or not?
That's okay. Hot. It's lukewarm.
It's lukewarm. Brands jumping into menopause marketing.
That is hot right now.
So it's very hot. And menopause as a leadership advantage.
I think that's hot. I think it's
Very hot.
Yeah.
I think we need to have empowerment as women. I think we need to get back into that, definitely.
What do we know? What do we bring with us? A whole lot. The world is waking up to it.
Exactly. And I was even the other day going, I've been on this earth like 48 years. It's a lot of time to learn stuff. We need to give ourselves a pat on the back and say, dang, you've done a lot in 48 years. Do you know what I mean? We forget it and we're just beating ourselves up about the small things. And we need to thank ourselves a lot more, definitely. Yeah.
We need to zoom out. Yeah.
We do. You're right. Yeah. You're absolutely right.
I need to be reminded of it too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but we all do. Like, I mean, because we can kind of have those times when we feel empowered, and then there's other days where we can't, and that's also okay. And I say to women, it's okay to not be okay. Somebody said something to me, what she was so profound years ago. I was kind of having a bit of like therapy. I'd broken up the relationship, and I was like, I don't want to be sad. And he's like, why? And I said, because I'll get depressed. And he went, depression is just another emotion. He said, what are you fearful of? He said, you'll be depressed and then you'll get out of it. He said, if you've got a medical condition where there's depression, he said, that's different. He said, but depression is just another emotion. And it's something that even with my daughter, of course, hormonal teenager, I remind her of that because it trends very much with these young kids, these teens, where they kind of put so much emphasis on these words. And I always remind her, being depressed or down, it's an emotion. Life has to have this. We cannot just be on one even plane. We cannot. So we have to be okay with the ups and downs. But when we're down, we also need to be okay with that, knowing that we're going to come out of it. But we've got to have that mindset to be able to come out of it and not say, and I always say, like, this is an NLP training now, don't use the word I am depressed. I am this, because what you're saying is I exist as this, instead of saying, I just feel a bit rubbish today, but that's okay. Being okay about that feeling, but not kind of putting a label on ourselves, because I think then we get stuck as well. And that subconscious mind will just keep repeating, I am fat, I am depressed, I am this, I am that. Yeah. So much of a loop that we're going on.
And pushing away negative emotions leads to all sorts of problems. I did that.
Squash it down.
I would get this like feeling and I'd just be like, why am I feeling this? Why am I, my whole life. And so my learning was in my early 50s, I started to cry and bawl. And I cried so much, but it only lasts usually about 90 seconds. Sometimes there's longer ones, but you've got to get it out. You have to get it out. And I wrote something recently called The Case for Screaming, because we're not supposed to scream, but I have been doing 9D breath work for a couple of years and it builds up to a primal scream. And I have found that so effective. Really? And I was telling the story that I had a really frustrating morning. I was going somewhere I didn't want to go. I was doing something I didn't want to do. And I was parking and I was in the wrong parking lot and I was in my car and I just screamed. And then I shocked myself. I was like, ah! And I just felt better. And I was like, why can't we scream if you have a pillow? I watched this hilarious show, Hacks, and their characters are always having meltdowns. And I've never seen this on TV where they're just scream. Like they're not screaming at someone. They're just like, ah. And I thought, they're having an appropriate reaction. So anger, like we make it wrong, right? Like I'm so upset right now, but it's wrong. What if you just said to yourself, I'm here to feel all of it. Like I'm here to feel all of it. And I will feel better again. But first I got to get this guy out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This whole holding it down, suppressing it. No, not healthy.
I'll come back.
I love a good cry. I feel great. Have a good cry, then I'm all good. Yeah. It's very healthy.
Good cry, good scream.
Years ago, my boss said to me, he saw me crying and he said, Heidi, he said, at this level, he said, you shouldn't be crying at this level. You shouldn't be crying. Like, you shouldn't. And I said, excuse me. I said, I'm a woman and I'm in the spa industry. We cry a lot. I said, you're going to have to get used to that. And he was like, okay. I was like, I'm not going to apologize. I needed to cry
I
at that
love
time.
that you said that to him. Oh
I
my
did.
God.
I was like, no. I'm not going to be shamed for crying, because we're such an emotional bunch in the spa and wellness industry, you know? I'll go and see my girls and we'll all be crying about things and great things like happy tears as well as sad tears. But we'll all be together having a good cry. I just say, don't be ashamed of it. I think it's really important. It's healthy. Get it out. Scream, cry, whatever you want to do. Let it go.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I agree.
Yeah. It's so important. So we're going to empower women to let out more of their emotions. I love it. So Anne-Marie, thank you so much for reminding us that menopause is not something to hide from, and it's something to meet with knowledge, confidence, and grace. And for anyone listening who feels called to the pause, reset, and move through this chapter with deep support, you can book your menopause retreat with Elena in the Maldives this June. And we will have the booking link in the bio, and they can follow us also on Instagram. And we'll be looking forward to seeing you in Dubai next month. Yeah.
Too. Thank you
More
so
conversations.
much.
Thank you so much.